All right. I've started recording. I've started recording. All right. So, what is the biggest lesson you've learned in your journey so far, working where you are?
Well, thank you again for having me on this call. Mr. Bankole, it's really a privilege to be able to share my experience with everyone on the call this morning. Yes, so what has been my experience so far?
No, no. What's the biggest thing you've learned?
The biggest thing I've learned. Oh, that's a
Mhm.
very interesting question. I think one of the most valuable lessons I've learned on my role, I think I've been on for going to almost about 9 months now. And I would say the biggest lessons I've learned are two. One is being proactive. Um, the other lesson I've also learned is being highly transparent and leaving no room for ambiguity, right? Ensuring that you are very clear about everything you're doing and letting everyone around also know exactly what you're doing and what's going on. So, I mean, those are like the two biggest lessons I've learned. Again, let me just go over it. One would be being transparent, and then, the other. Sorry, what did I say the first one is again?
The first thing you said that being transparent, and then no, that was the second thing you said.
Yes,
Um, the first thing you said was, what did you say? Can somebody put it in the chat?
it just kind of, skipped
Very
my mind right now.
I remember what you said. Like, I actually had a story about that. Being
Yes,
proactive.
being
Yes.
proactive.
Thank you, Damilala.
Being
Yes.
proactive, yes. And
Mm.
the reason why I say those were my two biggest lessons was because when I got hired, I had an employer who, is a very busy man, very, very busy. It's quite difficult a lot of times to get a hold of him, especially for the kind of role that I have, that I was always need to, have conversations and interactions with him every now and then about decisions I'm trying to take, and then but I soon learned that on a role like that, you have to think on your feet. You have to be able to anticipate, what your employer expects of you based on, your job description, based on why you were hired, and also based on, the initial onboarding and interaction sessions you've had with your employer. You're able to just anticipate, what the next expectation should be, and it's basically you taking ownership, for every single thing you are doing. So you're not waiting to be instructed, and it's mostly like that with international clients, especially US based clients. You're not usually always having to receive instructions on what to do. They expect you to understand what you need to do based on your job description and based on your work experience, and then apply that, to take proactive steps to be able to bring solutions. And then um, the other thing I said is being very transparent and honest. One of the things that I also realized that they value a lot is honesty and transparency. You're not that kind of person that is always, cutting around the corners. You're always shady. You're not, when they ask you certain questions. I remember one time being on a call and I was asked the question and I gave an explanation. And I remember one of the persons on the call just had to pause the meeting to point out the fact that he has never for once had somebody articulately, working with Nigerians and you know people from the diaspora, over there. He has never for once had somebody articulately and clearly and transparently explained, what I, got to explain, which was a challenge. So again, for me, that's been my two biggest lessons being on, my job so far.
All right. Can you give an example? Like, give us a story of one time where you had to be proactive, like a situation where you had to step in and, just give us I don't know, like give us an example of one time where you had to be where you had to be proactive, so that we can have an idea of what, people say proactive a lot. I see the number
Yeah.
of times I see it on CVs. I'm proactive. What does it look like in a in a work setting?
All right. So in a work setting, being proactive, an example would be one of my initial responsibilities of my role was to carry out a website landing page redesign. And a lot of that needed a lot of inputs from my employer. She needed to We needed to review a lot of designs together, whilst the work is ongoing. He needed to input, give reviews. But then we got stuck at a point at the initial part of getting that work done because he was unavailable, and each time I have my review calls with Parasol, I'm always, you know, yes, this is where we left off, and I've sent over a questionnaire for him to fill, and then it's just taking time. He's not able to fill it. So for those of you who are digital marketers, you know that before you begin to build up any strategy or develop any, campaign plans, you first need particular answers, questions rather being answered, things like target audience, um, locations you're looking at, etc. So I had this questionnaire I had sent out, and I think it was taking quite a while. It went over going to over a month. I hadn't gotten responses, to that. I had sent follow up after follow up emails, but responses were not coming forth. So what I did to be proactive was I went ahead on my own with the little information I had available at hand to work on a design, and then I sent it across to my employer to say, well, this is what I've done so far based on the information I have available. If I'm able to get a bit more information, I'll be able to flesh this out a bit better, And when I did that, we had a call like the following week. He scheduled a meeting like the following week, and we got to have a quick conversation, and then he gave some feedback, and I went back to, work on it. So that's what being proactive looks like. You're taking that initiative. You're not just sitting down on your hands, and saying, okay, because I haven't gotten response to this, then nothing gets to happen, and then it was also delaying my, social media designs, postings, and everything. What did I do again to be proactive? I went ahead with the information again I had available, and fleshed out, a content plan and started working. Sent again the content plan, the post ideas, sent it to him. So irrespective of whether I was getting any feedbacks or not, I just ensured that he was seeing from my end that I was taking proactive measures to ensure that something is being done every day.
Hmm. Interesting. Thank you very much, Samuel, for that, because everybody claims to be proactive. This is what proactive looks like. He moved forward without information. He didn't have it, but he still moved forward anyway. There are some situations where it's better to be wrong than not to do anything. You understand?
Right.
Like, put out something that you can actually correct or iterate, or like just build off something. But instead of just sitting down and collecting your money, I'd be like, top, I sent him. And like, if his boss had called and be like, why haven't you moved forward on it? He had a very good excuse. Like, he had sent the questionnaire and had also sent follow-ups. So now let's step back a bit. Let's first now, okay, how did you, like, what were you doing before you joined Parasol? Like, what was your career journey like?
So before I joined Parasol, amazingly, I had been pursuing business as an entrepreneur, and I soon got to some parts of my businesses where I realized I needed money. I needed a lot of money to run my businesses. And in the process of, so I have my background in mass communication and then business administration, and so Entrepreneurship had always been my passion and my thing, but in the process of trying to build businesses, I would get to a point where I needed certain things done. And because I didn't have the financial bandwidth to pay anybody to do it, I would go and learn how to get it done. And most of these skills were digital marketing related skills. So that was how I started picking up my digital marketing skills. I didn't have like a cohesive course that sat me down and said move from point A to point B. So it was me, okay, for instance, trying to design a logo. I will go online, go learn how to do that, and I will get it done myself. Trying to run an ad, I'll go learn about it, and trying to design a website. I think at the point I was trying to get into drop shipping. So I took a course for that. But on the course, we were taught ads, we're taught web design, a lot of these things. So I just woke up eventually. I realized that I was a digital marketing generalist. So that's what began my career in digital marketing. So I took a few certification courses here and there, and then I got my first job as a social media manager, part-time, with an e-mobility company here in Nigeria. Looking back now, at that journey, it went from being a social media manager, which for me at the time seemed to be like the lowest hanging fruit, growing into a job where I came in as a social media manager, eventually became a social media team lead, because again, the things that I had learned wasn't conventional in a training that focused on a single aspect of digital marketing. So, I was a bit holistic in my approach to digital marketing. So, whenever I apply for a social media management job, they end up converting my role to a digital marketing specialist, so I just stuck with that since that was what was working. Again, I know a lot of us have passion, follow your passion, follow your passion. And it's good to follow what you are passionate about. Of course, I'm also passionate. I love what I do, and I'm passionate about digital marketing as well. But when I found out early enough that this was where I was getting attention the most, initially I was even trying to apply for executive assistant roles because I had taken a course in virtual assistant with ALX at the time. So that's what I was actively applying for. And then I realized more people were asking me, okay, can you help me with this? And they were all digital marketing related jobs. So I was like, okay, since this is what is working for me right now, I focused on that, maximized my attention in that direction. I started building my experience through one job at a time, one job at a time. At the time when I got into Parasol, I was actually actively looking to transit away from working for local businesses and to actually working with international clients when I found the opportunity to work with Parasol through through a community I was part of, which is the tech hub here, in my city where I am. So again, I know the value of being part of communities. A lot of the jobs I have gotten, apart from maybe one or two, were all through recommendations. They all came through communities. They all came through recommendations. Very few of them came with me directly applying on LinkedIn. I think just one or two jobs came through applying on LinkedIn, but all the other jobs I've had so far came through being part of communities. So I saw, the job being posted in the community where I was, and then I applied, and then of course I'm here today.
Yeah, so that's Collab, right?
Yes, collab.
Yeah, Collab, but they are a very strong partner of ours. They've been very, very good. They are doing fantastic work. If any of you here are in Kaduna, I would suggest strongly that you're looking to transition or just join a very strong community that will help you transition or learn new skills. I would strongly recommend Collab. So the next question I would ask is, so what was the interview process like for you in to get the role? Like, what was it like? How did you prepare for it? How did it? What did you have multiple? Did you have multiple stages, or it was just one interview and so on? Just take us through that whole process and your thought process when everything was happening.
I mean, so that's a very good question, sir. So, I mean, I think this would be probably the first time I'm saying thank you so much for the process leading up to being interviewed with the client because it was so helpful. So like I said, I was actively trying to get, jobs with um, international businesses and clients at the time. So I think at a point I was applying to almost 200 jobs a month. I was literally, I was just locked in, so I would apply every day. I would get series of rejection mails. For those of you who see one rejection mail and you're like, oh my God, I would get series of. I was used to seeing rejection mails in my Gmail account, in my email rather. So I would just delete, and keep applying. At the point, I lost track of how many jobs a month I was applying to, at the time. So a few times I'll get some interviews, and I'll flop it. And so what I'll do is I'll go back. Why did I get this wrong? And then start learning. I started piecing a few things together, and then I remember before my interview after I applied, I had an initial screening call with yourself and Linda, just to kind of find out if I was a right fit before my application was sent um, to the client. And then I think that call was just barely a 5-10 minutes call on WhatsApp. And then after a few days, I received an email for an initial screening, which happened with the hiring partner in US as remote in work now. And then the last stage was the interview with the clients. Now, along the line, or along these stages, before even the initial screening, I had received emails from Parasol. I had an entire, I think myself and my colleague, we had a call leading up to that initial screening to just kind of walk us through what to expect on an interview and how to respond. There were a few things I knew, but I remember that day there was something very important that you said that was like the light bulb moment for me. It kind of like pieced everything that I was missing that day, which was, you said something about the fact that, an interview is essentially a sales call, not particularly a historical account of your work experience, whilst you're going to have to, talk about what you have done and give facts and figures and talk about numbers, but it has to be from, a sales point of view. And when you said that thing that day, it stuck with me. It helped me revolutionize how I was approaching job interviews. I realized that, essentially I was supposed to sell myself, because on the call I also got to realize that they were, while she was speaking, also with the helpful documents that Parasol had sent in prior to that point, listing out a few things to expect and how to structure your answers, for your interview questions. I realized that apart from understanding your work experience as it relates to the job you're applying for, these employers at the end of the day also want to understand your personality. They also want to know if this person will be easy to work with. So a lot of times, a lot of us get on these interview calls and we have a very long face. We're keeping a very sad or tired face. I've had that challenge before, where I applied for an event which was supposed to be a live show for entrepreneurs. My business plan was good, but they told me, you are too laid back, and I traveled all the way that day to Abuja for that, interview. So I was stressed out. I had waited long, the queue. My head was aching me. So I had reasons to look laid back. But that alone, didn't get me in as much as I had a very, strong business plan, like, they alluded to, so when you said that day, it kind of like connected the dots for me to realize one of the reasons why sometimes I wasn't, getting, these jobs. And then prior to that point, because of all the intense, follow-ups that we had from Parasol, it gave me the opportunity also to be very deliberate about ensuring that before that day, everything was set up. So I went over all the questions. I wrote my answers in advance, not necessarily to cram them, but to kind of like structure out everything I wanted to say to every possible question I could be asked, that relates to, the job I was applying for. So that I had, all of that, and I went over that like 2 days prior to, the initial screening. At first, I thought the initial screening was the main interview, so I went all out, and again, the initial screening went well, and I was told, okay, maintain the same energy going into the call. Again, especially for those of us that are in roles where you have to have proofs for what you're saying. It's also essential to ensure that before you get into the interview, you have prepared everything on ground. You have, probably your portfolio. I remember on the call, just about when we're done, I was asked for my portfolio, and I had to pull that up and drop the link in the chat. After the call, I got another email asking me to, to remove my contact details and send that, and also send my website portfolio. So just imagine I didn't have all of that prepared. It took me like 24 hours or 2 days to get it across. It would just show that, oh, this person is a bit hardy, and all of that. So you want to ensure that everything that would make you look, sloppy and tardy, you eliminate all of that. You're well prepared. So again, it's a sales call. So I went in with that mindset, and I had a smile. That day too, I was very tired, I was exhausted. But the moment the camera came on, I had a smile on my face throughout the interview, and I was very lively. And again, the client is going in their head, this is the kind of person I want to work with. I love this energy. This person will not give me problem. This person will be easy, to work with, to relate with, and of course, I think I got to find out after the interview that the client didn't want to interview any other person after I
Yeah.
was, because he felt like, oh, I've seen exactly what I need. Now, I may not have been as experienced as some of the other candidates, but being able to articulately case the experiences I've had related directly to the job, and how that I can bring that experience into solving actual problems in that job, and then selling myself in the process, saying it from a sales standpoint, kind of like telling the person, you are missing out if you don't get me. You're saying it in such a way that this is the value that I have to give. A lot of times, imposter syndrome makes us speak less of ourselves. You have the experience, but you're talking about it as though, it wasn't something that you actually did. Now, even if the experience wasn't so elaborate, but you say it in such a way, such a professional manner. For instance, they ask you a question like, tell me about a time where, you did something wrong, and you got a query. A lot of us just go ahead to explain how we got a query, and we leave it at that. You want to turn every negative, because it's a sales call, so you want to turn every negative positive.
It's very positive. Yes.
At the point I had this challenge on a previous role, this happened, this was the result when this happened, but this was what I did. You always want to end it on a positive note. This was what I did to solve this problem, and I solved it within this time frame, and this was the result, after I solved that problem. It tells the person that, somebody will tell me about your weaknesses, and then you just go ahead and say, I sleep a lot, I can delay, I procrastinate a lot, but I'm working on it. What you've done is just sold yourself short. I used to have a challenge, where I struggle with managing my time, but I took a course. Yeah, even if you are yet to take the course, turn that thing immediately into a positive. I took a course, in time management, and I've been implementing the things I learned. So now I structure, my work. I have time blocks for things. You just explain that out and turn that into a positive. So whatever it is, you never end off on a negative note. And I think the last thing also for me was being able to ask important questions. That also shows a lot of your soft skills, important questions that shows your attention to details. So prior to the interview, I think a day before, so I had received information about the client, so I went on their website, went in line, checked a few things about them, checked a few things. So when I was on the call, I was like, oh, while I was on your website, I noticed XYZ, XYZ, XYZ that needed to be fixed. And this is what we can do to fix it. That already tells the client that, okay, this person has keen attention to details. And all those, oh, I'm proactive. The client is already seeing, oh, this person is proactive. I'm not going to have to be chasing this person around to get work done.
Thank you. Look, the last 5 minutes of what Samuel has been sharing, if you've not been taking notes, pull out a pen and pad. He was dropping insight after insight after insight. Powerful insights. And it's not, and here's why I tell people a lot about what we try and do here in Parasol. A lot of the information we share with you guys, it's not, we don't just pull it up from Google or ChatGPT or so on. That's one of the reasons why we are doing these things. He's talking about what he used. So it worked. And this is not that, oh, he pulled it out from one textbook in 2012 or 1942. You understand? We're talking 2024, what he's using. He has given you insights. And the reason why I'm really emphasizing this is, I'm sorry, our education system in Nigeria pumps a lot of irrelevant information at us. A lot of irrelevant information. I went to Federal University of Technology, and you see, I didn't do engineering, I was in architecture, but you see engineers just talking, I beg, wait till I go carry dy dx do. You know, all this kind of, like, we keep a lot of the things we learn in this kind of trainings or settings, we are used to 90 to even 100% of them being useless. Don't bring that mentality inside here. The information that is being shared in these webinars are actionable information. And even hear what he said. What we said in the training, he carried it into his interview, and it worked for him. So that's our mentality. Sorry, Zainab, okay, let me mute that. Okay. So a lot of the information we share here is actionable information. It's not, we're just doing this for doing this sake. If you apply these things, you will be, what Samuel has shared here has been so many things that he shared. I can't even start, like so many. The fact that communicate that you are enthusiastic. I've said this thing, I've been saying it. Let me even give you guys a quick story that just happened, less than 24 hours ago. What they call it, we were interviewing, they are interviewing for 30 cybersecurity analysts. After the first stage, they were marking them over 4. After the first stage, most of them were getting 2 over 4, 2.5 over 4, 2.5 over 4, or 2 over 4. We gathered all the information from there, used it, held a feedback session for them. The next stage, they were getting 4 over 4. Do you understand? This happened this week. It's not that, oh, in my past, well, this week too was my past, last week was, but you know, like, this happened this week. The feedback, the information that we shared with people moved them from 2.5, 2 over 4 to 4 over 4. All right? So please pay attention, number 1. 2, because he was just talking, like he was dropping banger after banger. Like, I was just like, yeah. And let me tell you something, so I'll tell you guys why. Samuel just talked about it. He was trying to be humble. Samuel's interview, right? They were supposed to interview 3 of them. Samuel was the first person. The employer now interviewed Samuel and was like, yeah, like, I'm done. They were now like, no, that there are 2 other people. He's like, yeah, he doesn't want to talk to them. They're like, that he has found what he wants. They're like, yeah, but the 2 people are waiting that, okay, can you just talk to them briefly? He's like, for how long? They're like, 15 minutes. He's like, no, I'll do 10 minutes max. Then that was all. He just talked to them to fulfill all righteousness and then went with Samuel. So the things he's sharing here are really, really important things. Looking at your going into interviews, understanding that it's a sales call. Even your CV, I've told you guys about your CV. Your CV is not a historical document, it's a sales document. All right. Talking about how you carry your experience and your history and link it to what the employer wants. How do you know what the employer wants? What they said in the JD. All these things, man. Anyway, so let's proceed. Those who have ears, let them hear. All right. I think I'll just ask you one more question, so that we can open it up for people who want to ask some questions. And then I also want to share some information about a job opening that we have, and for people who might be interested. So for someone who, you said something which was, look, you are looking for opportunities, and you took that journey. You are trying to transition, into basically you are trying to transition into the global marketplace, workplace. What would be your advice? Like, if you had to crystallize the advice that you have for people who are trying to do this, who are where you were, like you said, maybe 9-10 months ago, what would be the things that, what would be the first step you will tell them to take? What would be the second? What would be the third? Like, what would you advise?
I think that's a very good question. So what my advice would be, for me personally, it would be, instead of applying to over 200 jobs at a time, through LinkedIn and other job boards, I think one of the first things I would have done was prioritize getting on hiring agencies and communities like Parasol. I was telling someone, who was also trying to find a job like that in Lagos, and I told the person, I said, this is how you are able to transition to the global market faster. There's so little you can do on your own. The bar is usually very high when you're trying to stretch on your own, to find these global opportunities. But so a lot of the times when I was finding them, I was still finding Nigerians in the diaspora, right, looking to hire. But a lot of the times, I think one of the times I also got into, one community, but it was for executive virtual assistant role. And I was on their talent pool for a year plus before I found out that I was no longer going to be on their talent pool. There was no communication, no follow up. After the first interview, to just know my experience and skill set, that was all. I didn't hear if there were any job opportunities. There was no community I was part of, but finding Parasol, I think, was the game changer for me. And I'm not just saying that because, oh, I'm on this call. I'm saying that because that is exactly what worked, for me. I was doing so much on my own, and I was getting little result. Not that I wasn't getting results, because I was putting in a lot of efforts, but the results were not to the degree. So I would find that a lot of times I have to, take up like 3, 4, 5 businesses or clients to be able to meet up, that financial expectations that I had for the role I was, looking for. And also understanding that, Nigerian businesses, in terms of the market value, for my skill sets, it wasn't so much. I think the highest job I was on was a fintech company, and those ones were eventually bootstrapping, so they had to cut down like 60% of the workforce. And my team, our department was just hired. 3 of us, we were just hired. Barely, it wasn't even up to 3 months. So we had not even done any work. And they were like, we're bonds too deep into our pockets. We're cutting down like 60%. And they removed like 60% of the entire company workforce just to be able to manage their resources. At this time, we can't really push our head into marketing and all of that. But finding Parasol changed the game, because it solved the problem of having to find the right jobs to apply to. So Parasol was my job filter, of course, in this case through Collab. So I think I got the email about the list of jobs, and then I applied, and then they sent me the link. I joined the Parasol community, and then I just realized that if I had done this earlier, I probably would have landed that job a bit more earlier than I later got it. So for me, I think the key thing for me was finding Parasol. And so again, this is not, some of you might say, he's trying to market Parasol because it's part of Parasol. But I'm saying this is
Even me,
exactly
I'm thinking it.
what worked. This is exactly what worked, right? If you find an outsourcing agency and you join their community, is one of the fastest ways I have realized for Nigerians and Africans at large to break into the global market. Very few times I hear people who on their own, without much help, break into the global market, usually with a lot of struggles, and time wasted. But having an outsourcing agency just bridges the gap, saves you a lot of time. You're already in the talent pool, you have already been vetted, so when opportunities are showing up, you're already in the pipeline. So the chances of you getting a job increases. No, I'm not saying you shouldn't go about still applying to LinkedIn jobs if that works for you, but again, I'm saying that finding an outsourcing agency, like Parasol, shortened my journey for me.
All right. Thank you very much, Samuel. So now that Samuel has advertised for us once again, but let me even say something here so that people don't get the wrong idea. Let me ask you like, did you pay us any money?
At all.
Do you understand? We
I
don't
get
make
paid
money from you.
100% of my salary.
We don't make, and this is not normal. All right. That's another thing I want to point out. He didn't pay us any money. Number two, it's not normal. We have had reports of people who work for other outsourcing agencies. One, in fact, some of the biggest outsourcing agencies in Nigeria. We were still small. We're growing in Jesus' name, but we're still small. Some of the biggest outsourcing agencies in Nigeria, if you hear what they are paying, what they are paying, quite a few of their people have come to us in Parasol. All right. That's one. Two, what we also know is that there are other people who they take, like you heard what he said. He said, I get my full salary. There are other people that what they do, we get paid from the employer's end. We're not trying to touch Nigerians, the employees' end. We're not interested in that. Why? What is our philosophy behind that? Is because we're trying to build something that will build Nigerians. So our hope is that the more, you can hear what Samuel said earlier on. He has things he wants to do and he needs money to do it. If he now works and we're now collecting that money from him, how will he do it? And if he's able to build that thing that he wants to build, he has more money and he's able to build that thing he wants to build, it will help other Nigerians too to start building up. That is our philosophy. All right. I tell people, I've told you guys, and I'll say it again. Let me tell you something. There are easier ways to make money. For me, anyway, there are easier ways to make money. This also brings impact. All right. It brings impact. And that is why it does not make sense to us to come and start collecting money from Nigerians' pockets. We are paid. If we are fighting with anybody, we fight with our Western partners. If we want more money, that's where we fight. Hey, pay us more money for this, for that, for this. We don't press the Nigerian employees. All right. So it's not normal. All right. We know of other outsourcing agencies that are taking money out of people's salaries. All right. They're taking money out, they're taking as much as 50% of what these people are collecting. And you don't even want to hear what some government people are doing. All right. So anyway, thank you very much. That was the last question that I had for you. Once again, I'll put, for those that are just joining, I'll just post again the links. One, if you want to join the talent pool, if there are openings, sometimes we just read that, we just go through our database. And if we see some people who fit into particular roles, we will we'll just reach out to them. So to be fair, there are even some job roles that even before it gets out, it's already filled, which I think was kind of what happened with, no, Samuel, we actually put out an ad for you. All right, then the WhatsApp group too. If you want immediate information and you want to be getting quick updates, you also join that. And then also I said, if we might be doing a training before the end of the year, but that will largely depend on if there are enough people to make it worth our while to do it. If not, we'll probably just leave it. It takes up a lot of our time. So we try not, like, and it doesn't bring us that much money, to be fair, compared to the other things we can be doing with that same time. So it has to be worth our while. If you're interested in joining the wait list, please go to parasolbpo.com/training. You'll see a waitlist button there. Click on it, fill in the form. When it's time, we'll reach out to you. We normally do a one-on-one Q&A session with you to try and figure out, okay, where are you? Where are you trying to reach? Will this training make sense for you? All right, will it make sense for you or not? So like I told you, I'll tell the story of one of the guys who came from, we already had his accent, we knew his accent. So we're now like, okay, do you still want to do the training? He was like, he still wants to do the training. But like, we're not sure we'll be able to get you a job with American companies. Like, communication is key. Your accent is too thick. No offense. It was very strong. And he did the training. The funny thing is that even us, we did not expect it. But an employer now reached out to us, one oil and gas company, said they were looking for somebody in accounting. He had accounting experience. We introduced him to that company. He later on joined that company. I was now earning 4 times what he was earning in his old job. So these things, you never know how it plays out. But anyway, that's to go with that. So meanwhile, if you have any questions, please paste any questions you have in the chat or raise your hands and I'll call you up to answer, for Samuel to answer any question that you have. I know that there are quite a few digital marketers here. So if you want to have an idea of what's going on in the digital marketing space, because I know that the digital marketing space is accelerating really, really quickly, which, let me even ask you this question because we have about 8 minutes. If you have any questions, please post in the chat or raise up your hand and I'll call you up. But I've been seeing that, Samuel, I've been seeing a lot has been going on in digital marketing space. What will you say, like you've been there for 9 months now, what trends are you seeing now in the digital marketing space that you think people who are playing in that space should pay attention to?
I mean, that's a very, very great question. I think one of the things I try to do month in, month out is I'm always learning something new as it relates to my role. Because I realize that it's a fast, rapid changing environment. And of course, now with things like AI, you have AI marketing now, and it's taking over the industry. So what would have taken you 10 people to solve, an AI tool can get it done for you under minutes. But it's not just being able to use an AI tool, it's understanding how to effectively integrate it into your workflow, to save time and get the same result you would have gotten if you did it on your own, because I see a lot of people that get to use AI and it's just generic work, So currently we have the AI marketing trend that is becoming a major thing. People are now being able to, for instance, create content without having to sit behind the camera and record. They can create AI avatars of themselves, and create realistic marketing videos and marketing content, and put out. That's one major trend, for instance, right now.
That's something. Are you guys using that in your company?
Not yet. We don't have reasons to have to put out content with anybody's face or video for now. So it's just design based content we're doing at the moment. Even down to things like blog writing. You now have AI tools. That's also something we're currently also using. You have an AI tool that it just basically set up, the entire structure, the kind of blogs based on a set of information that you have trained that AI tool and about your company, and then week in, week out, is just basically churning out blogs, for your business. So again, it's a rapid changing environment. So you don't want to stay stuck with the things you've known. Now we also have AI platforms to help you manage and run ads on your conventional platforms like Meta and the likes. So you have a single platform where you set up this ad and then it runs it for you. It optimizes it. Now, even these platforms themselves are beginning to integrate AI into their, entire system. So you basically, I was saying to someone the other day, I said the entry bar has become so low right now that literally even someone without, an experience, can jump in. But what would differentiate you from every other person who can easily pick up all of these tools and do something with it is that you're actually trained as a digital marketer. So you know what you are expecting to see, when you're making use of those tools. So when you're getting results that are not consistent, you can go back, work on it, get it to produce better results. That's what will basically set you apart. If not, it will become too difficult because now you can even design with AI, create graphics with AI. So it will become too difficult to differentiate. You can create websites, with AI. So it will become too difficult to differentiate, someone who actually has the skill as against someone who actually is just using the tool to create stuff. So, but because you understand, so again, for me, it's key for anyone who is in the digital marketing space to actually invest their time in actually understanding what are the digital marketing trends, in terms of markets, what platforms are working, what I was having a conversation. Let me just say this on the side. In my spare time during the daytime, I have, personal students that I take one-on-one. And currently, I have just one student, that I get to teach digital marketing. And I was explaining to her how that, when you are, for instance, trying to push a campaign, it's important that you have your data and your facts right. And these things are always changing. So don't say, oh, I ran an ad 4 months ago, or I ran an ad 6 months or 1 year ago, and this is what the data is. Chances are that that data has changed due to the dynamics of the market. So you need to go back and reconfirm your information. This is what will set you apart. You need to go back and reconfirm your information. So you won't be advising your client, let's go on Google, when clearly Google will not convert for that client. If it converted 1 year ago, it does not mean that it's going to convert right now. TikTok might just be, even though your client's business is a serious, professional business, you might just find out by research that TikTok is currently now the best place to take that business to. So you always want to be abreast with the changing data and information and understand what's happening, apart from, all the AI trends, AI tools that are coming out. You want to actually understand the market, dynamics, everything that's happening in the market. And again, Google is your friend. Just type it in on Google. That information will pop out. People are always doing this research on your behalf and they are putting out this information. So I'm always on LinkedIn, for instance, reading blogs, reading posts from industry experts, people who are in digital marketing, who for a living, they take it upon themselves to always update everyone on this is what's happening. This is the new trend. Okay. So for instance, some of us might not know who are digital marketers that captions don't really work on IG as much anymore. What you have now working is keywords, right? So in writing your content, for example, your caption for your IG posts, right? Using specific keywords that people in your industry will most likely, be looking for, works better than using your hashtags that are almost useless on IG, right? So again, how did I know that? I've been following up with those information. So you want to keep up with the trend and then always update yourself on the tools, right? So learn them. You may not have need for them immediately right now. There was a lot I learned earlier that I didn't have use for. But when this job came up, suddenly they became very relevant. right?
Mm.
And there's a lot
Wow.
that will come up later that you may not, okay, I see a course, oh, they're training people on how to use this AI tool for marketing. I've paid for it before you even say Jack Robinson, and sometimes it might be expensive because some of these courses are priced in dollars. But again, I prioritize educating myself because I don't want to wake up 6 months down the line and they are telling me, oh, we found somebody better who can do what you're doing. I will no longer need, your services.
Mm. Interesting. Very interesting. Once again, that was another. I hope you guys were listening. Samuel shared a lot there that was really important. So it's 11. I wanted us to quickly go over something. We have a job opening, and I would like Samuel, before you go, for you to just weigh in on how people can can probably take advantage of the opportunity if they can. So we have an e-commerce manager role available, open for what they call it, for a gifting company based in the UK. The founder is the founder is running this company and is looking for an e-commerce manager. The number one requirement she has is for you to be able to know how to set up and manage and optimize a Shopify account. All right. Interviews were supposed to have started yesterday. I'll be very honest with you guys. We can't find anybody that can do this job. All right. And for me, it's really sad because I don't think it's a particular tough job. I don't think it's
Yeah.
hard. This is not what they call it. Is it DevOps? It's not DevOps. It's not AWS. It's setting up a Shopify store. This is setting up and managing a Shopify store. I know that we don't use Shopify a lot in Nigeria, and probably that's the reason why. If she had asked for somebody who knew how to use maybe Instagram, TikTok Shop, and all that, I'm sure we would find a lot of people. But the other thing that has been really sad for me is something Samuel was just talking about, keeping up with trends. A lot of the people that we've spoken to have shown no interest in even learning the skill. Like if I needed this job, let me tell you, if I needed this job, by the time the job description came out, when did it come out? Was it last week or something, or on Monday or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
By today, I'm a Shopify expert.
Yeah.
Do you understand? By today, I would be a Shopify expert. And off the top of my head, and I don't know, like, so this was what I wanted to ask you, Samuel. From what I understand of the Shopify thing, it seems like something that digital marketers should be able to slide into.
Yeah.
All right. It seems like something that digital marketers should be able to slide into. That, it's a different thing if I'm telling you to move from DevOps to what they call it, maybe DevOps to digital marketing, or but it seems quite, in fact, like I think those two skills kind of interconnect. So I don't know. What do you think? Like, well, if you are to try and put yourself in contention for such a role, how would you deal with that?
So I mean, it's actually basically a digital marketing role. Just that they didn't call it digital marketer, they said an e-commerce manager, because it's what a digital marketer essentially should have learned. I would say one of the challenges had been the fact that a lot of digital marketing courses out there are not holistic in their approach. They just, because digital marketing is broad, so
Yes.
you can't focus on everything within a short. So you have a 1-2 month course, you can't actually crash everything. I, for one, that's why I really don't take up personal students much, because I take up like 6 months, and I will take you step by step website. They show you all the places where you can set this up. Now, I learned something whilst I was working as a sales consultant for Jumia some time ago, which is which helped me transition fully as a sales consultant trying to sell anything, which is say yes first and quickly go and figure out how to solve that problem. That got me more businesses than anything. So we're looking for somebody that can yes. In fact, there was a client, I won't forget, that was like last year or so. Somebody needed to set up an NGO or something like that, and the lady was in Canada. Yes, I can. And then I spoke to a friend of mine who has some expertise in that role. How far? This is what's going on. Would you be able to run this for me? This is what they are paying. This is how much I'm going to pay you. And I didn't even directly run it, but again, you can't really do that with a job like this. But when I saw the job, I was telling my colleague at work, I said, you'll be hearing from him next week, Amu. I said, I wish Parasol allows us to work on two jobs. I said I would have applied for this thing. Shopify is not rocket science. It's something you can learn within one day. Just go on YouTube. You can literally understand the step by step. And this is the thing for me. Whenever I'm learning something new, I always want to improve. Even if I get to a stage where they are saying, put in your card details. But I always want to try it. And if there's a way I can get into it, Shopify allows you to open a free store and you have like free trial, I think, for 3 days. It used to be longer than that before. But you have a free trial period. I can't remember what the trial period is now because it's been a while when I last opened the Shopify store. I didn't sell anything, but I just went on there. Again, I've not used that skill in a job, but I went on there, figured out how, because how did I know that I needed to learn how to set up Shopify? I went on Google. As I'm looking at these jobs, I'm seeing their requirements on different digital marketing jobs. These are the usual skill sets they are looking for. So what do? I check my current skill sets. What are the gaps I have? I go look for a course. It doesn't have to be a paid course. I go look for a YouTube video and learn that skill. Outbound, that's how I learned outbound marketing. Exactly. I go learn that skill. And then, so when you're asking me on a job interview, do I know how to do this? My answer is yes. Now, even if at that point I haven't, because I'm a digital marketer, I understand how the markets work because I'm always keeping myself abreast. So I have answers to give you there and then. This thing has worked for me before. After that call, I don't even wait for the next minute. I go online and I'm trying to find out a little bit more about that thing that you just asked me about. I learn it. I understand how it works. I go on the platform, try to set up an account, try to figure out a few things here and there, watch a few videos. This will literally just take you a day. And before you know, you already have knowledge on that stuff. I think I saw that job description. That was like the only core technical skill per se for a digital marketer, because the other skills requires, even for content creation, they say understanding how to use AI tools, which anybody can do, right? Strong problem solving and organization skills is a general soft skill. Hands-on approach to e-commerce operation. You can literally just go online and Google how to run an e-commerce business, e-commerce operations, and just educate yourself within a few hours. And added to your skill as a digital marketer, you can start to speak with some sense of, understanding that an authority that, oh, this person actually understands this thing. That's what gets your foot in the door. But if you just sit back and say, oh, I don't know the thing, I don't know how it works, I've never heard of it before, that goes back to your interview call. You're selling yourself short. You always want to turn a disadvantage into an advantage. There was a call one time I was on an interview last year on a job that I had to leave. They didn't want me to go. When I got the job with Parasol, they literally did everything to not, let me leave. And I was on the call with the guy, and he was like, "Oh, do you understand this?" I said, "Okay, I don't know this tool. I've heard about this tool though." And he said, "Oh, it's related. It does similar things, but not exactly the same things. But I understand this. But like I mentioned earlier, I possess a growth mindset, and so I'm always quick to learn. I have a fast learning curve. However you want to put it, I possess a sharp learning curve, and I'm always learning, right? So It won't.
Learning is like a muscle. The more you use it,
Yeah.
the stronger it becomes. The more you use it, the quicker you learn. If you keep learning, you get faster. Yeah, but sorry, you were saying.
So he eventually told me, he said, in as much as this was a core requirement for this job, but I like what you said. You didn't just go out and say, oh, I don't know it. You showed me, in as much as I don't really understand how this works, because he was trying to ask me some technical questions on the call. So I just basically told him, I really don't understand. I know about this tool, but I haven't used it as much in, a real use case per se, but I know about it. I know how it works. But I could quickly update my knowledge on this thing. I said, oh, I really love the fact that you pointed that out. And you also showed me that this is something that you're willing to learn. And when they gave me the opportunity and I had my probation period, I literally proved that that thing I said I was going to do, I did. And I took up that. It was one of the most challenging seasons of my career. I took up that responsibility, and what a salesperson should have done, essentially, I set up an entire system, for outbound marketing and sales. Again, it's simple. Go on Google, go on YouTube. I was spending like 2-3 days on YouTube that period to just quickly learn that tool and understand how it works. So when I got on the job, it wasn't difficult for me to just begin to practice. And anytime I get stuck while trying to implement something, I go back to the videos I've watched very quickly whilst I'm getting the job done. Oh, this was what it was. And in less than a week, your hands have gotten strong on that stuff. So you need to learn to think on your feet.
Fantastic. So, like I said, the job opening is still there. We have interviews scheduled for Monday. We don't have anybody to give to the client. So I'll just post the link again. All of you digital marketers, take a look at it. We might shift the interview with the client, but put in some work, for God's sake. Like, as there's somebody who has sent me a CV and said I'm a fantastic typist in 2025. Update. Yeah, laughing. It's true. And like, it's a real. I really saw this. So like a lot. I was really, really sad with the response I saw to this, because I was like, yes, this is an unusual job role. Like, it's not something that this is the first time we're getting somebody asking for an e-commerce manager. But what they call it, this is the first time I'm seeing somebody asking for an e-commerce manager. But when I looked at the job description, I'm like, I can learn this thing. And to even give you more context, the employer, the founder herself, she built this business as a side hustle while having a full-time job and having 2 kids to manage. Do you understand? So, and she was able to build it up to where it is now, that she can now start, and for her to now start hiring people, that means that that business is making enough. So that means she has been successful at it. All right. So, like, when I now come out, everybody's like, Now, let me make it very clear. She has told us her interview is going to be 45 minutes of technical. It's a technical interview, 45. So don't think that you just walk in there and do like Samuel and be like, I've heard of this, but I can do. She will probably go in depth. She wants to know she's not wasting her time. But for me, I think it's very doable. I don't think this is hard, especially if you have a digital marketing background. All right. So anyway, I just wanted to share this on that and like share the mentality. The world is changing really quickly, very fast. All right. Like, you need to keep up, and some of the things that you are going to need to be able to do. And there's something I tell people, we'll just end on this. The reason why a challenge or a problem is a challenge or a problem is because you currently don't have the capacity to solve it. When you now develop the capacity, you can now overcome that challenge or problem, but the capacity will stay with you. All right? The capacity will stay with you. So, for example, the challenge now is to be able to pass a Shopify interview. You go and do a crash course, and by the end of it, you move from 0 to 40% or 60% over, or 60 over 100 on how to use Shopify. Even if whether you get the job or you don't get the job, you are now at 60%. Monday will come and go, Tuesday will come and go, next week will come, you are now at 60%. All right? That's how I look at these things. And I really want to pass that mentality off to everybody here. So we've gone over time. Samuel, this was a fantastic one. I really appreciate you sharing everything that you shared with us. I think it was a really, really nice one. And everybody on the call, once again, I appreciate you sharing your time with us. I don't know whether you want to say anything before we leave, Samuel.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me again. I think you said something very important about the fact that update your CVs. For instance, when I wanted to apply for the job I have now with Parasol, on my CV, and I do this for every job application. On my CV, I didn't have some of the work experiences that related to the job. Not that I didn't have the experience, but it wasn't on my CV. So I had to go back to my CV, edit. Now, even the wordings for the things I did on those jobs, some of them were worded to be better suited for some other roles. I had to reword them again to fit into the narrative of the job that I was applying for. So you're applying for this job, yes, you're going back to go and learn the Shopify, find out all the technical skills related to understanding how Shopify stores work. Go on your CV, update your CV with those relevant skill sets. Go on YouTube, go and learn, like you said, take a crash course. So you're coming on that call, you're not just saying on your CV, I understand how this works, but then you now have some knowledge to back, what's on your CV as well. But always update your CV. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. The deadline for the e-commerce manager role, the last CVs we have to take will have to be by 12 noon on Monday. So if you're interested, you want to take a shot, you want to bet on yourself, I would encourage you to do so. I'm not the one interviewing you, so you don't think that you can come into the interview and be like, Bankole said I should bet on myself, just allow me pass. I am not the one interviewing you. The person that is going to interview you doesn't even know I'm telling you this stuff. So but I just think I saw it and I was like, if it's not that I'm doing Parasol, I'll go and do this work. Let somebody be paying me salary now. They tell you people, me, I don't like salary too. So, all right. Thanks again, everyone. I appreciate you spending some time on the call. I think this was a fantastic one. We'll be sending out the recordings to you on Monday. And also we'll be putting up all these AMAs. We'll soon start uploading them to the Parasol website. I mean, to the Parasol YouTube channel, where you guys can go and watch it at any time you feel like. All right. So once again, thanks everybody. I appreciate you spending time with us. Thanks again, Samuel. Please go and sleep. Go and rest. Don't teach anybody this weekend. Go and rest. Come out again on Monday and we go again. All right. So thanks everyone. And I appreciate you. And I wish you all the best in your journeys and your careers.